All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Sentinels of Liberty podcast. I am your host, Redbeard, and with me today is Tom Eddlem. For those of you that kind of caught some of some of the messages or some of the inside baseball, needless to say, this week has been pretty insane. Up to pretty much the, the last minute, I was trying to generate, if you will, a thumbnail image, and I'm here to tell you, I had such a great track record for being able to have a good thumbnail to present, and yeah, no, it just didn't want to cooperate today. But like I was telling Tom in our discussion before we started up. I really do believe that sometimes, God really has a unique way of throwing everything in the kitchen sink at you, not to beat you down, but, it just tells me that there's something else coming down the pike that I have to be ready for. And so this is his way of doing that. And before we get super far into it, I want to share one of my all-time, it's become pretty much my all-time favorite verse in the Bible, if you will, or a portion of the verse. And it's 2 Corinthians 3:17. And it goes, "Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty." I love that. I love that verse so much. We are a show that is built on liberty. We talk about liberty, look through the lens of liberty, and it is only befitting that I use that quote. Today, we are going to also be looking at things like economy, current events, all the insanity. But without further ado, Tom, thank you for coming on, brother. I appreciate having you back again. If you want to let people know a little bit of who you are, if they're seeing you for the first time.
Yeah, I'm Tom Eddlem. I'm the blue-collar economist, and you can read most of my stuff over at the Libertarian Institute. They publish me most weeks, I would say. I had a piece this past Wednesday on the subject of immigration and crime, and I've got another piece coming up, most likely next week, that's already in the queue, so look for that. And I am an active Libertarian Party member, father of 3, grandfather, and all the rest of that. So that's basically me. But I'm libertarian in outlook and in training, an economist. And but my trade is a plasterer. I'm literally a blue collar economist. So there you
go. Very cool. I think you do a lot of really good work over at the Libertarian Institute, Tom. I've read a number of your articles, and I really enjoy them. And there's, a lot of people, I think, that also contribute over there that do a lot of really good stuff. So I can't recommend the Libertarian Institute enough. Go check out Tom's stuff. Go look at some of the other stuff that's on there. There was one I just read on Moldova recently, which I thought was pretty interesting. And I do think that it is potentially an area that really will pique the interest of foreign, foreign enthusiasts, foreign affairs enthusiasts quite a bit. So if you're interested in that, go take a look at that also, and go look at a bunch of Tom's recent work from recently all the way back. It's great stuff. So yeah, thanks for coming on again, Tom. And look, there's a lot that took place since the last time you and I were on a show together.
Yeah. President Trump became a super legislator, raising taxes with tariffs as he pleases almost daily, and then pulling some of them back. This is going before the Supreme Court. There's, let's see, he decided to do drone strikes against, let's see, have I been on since Iran? I don't know. I know I haven't been on since the Yemen strikes.
I think once or twice after Iran, but
okay.
But there's a lot that happened between then and now. So I was going to say we have successfully, I think the count now, and I'm off by a numeric or two, but I'm pretty sure we've destroyed 4 Venezuelan boats by now. And I'd recently just seen an article. I know people are going to be like, "Oh, why would you do this?" Because I like collecting information wherever. And RT just recently put out something, I think it was either today or yesterday, talking about how there's apparently plans in the making to actually go and attack Venezuela. And the other thing, and I don't know if you've heard this also, but supposedly called in hundreds of commanding officers for a meeting of which most people, up until the meeting, I think the meeting was supposed to be today or it was supposed to be sometime this weekend, nobody knew what it was about. But it was like an emergency meeting that he had called all of these people within the line of command to come and sit in. And a lot of people are like, okay, like, is this it? Is this the Venezuela thing? Does it have to do with Iran? Does it have to do, like, nobody knows. And so I thought that that article was awfully timely in conjunction with, what Hegseth recently did. And I don't know if you heard anything about that, but I had just heard it. I just caught it on Daniel Davis's show. And then he had, I think it was either, I think it might have been McGregor that was on there, and they had just tossed it around a couple times. But I thought that was kind of interesting. And a lot of people have said that doing something like that where everybody has to be in person is fairly unprecedented. So
these are the top generals that you're talking
yeah,
about?
supposedly it's all the leading command of the U.S. military that was called back to one single location for Hegseth to provide a briefing or have some type of meeting. I'm not sure what that is. Like, a lot of people were speculating as to what that was about, but it was just super unprecedented. So, with everything that's going on with Venezuela, there's obviously some friction going on again with like Iran. You're seeing some things still take place as it pertains to people's dispositions with Israel and in Palestine and Gaza and all of these different entities.
Ukraine too. Yeah.
A lot that's been heating up too with just the change of direction as it pertains to Ukraine. And so it's really hard to say like what it could be about. And I know Daniel Davis was like, boy, hopefully it's something that actually makes sense to bring all these people back, because if not, they're going to be super pissed that they couldn't have done it over teleconference. So,
I can't speculate on that. That's for sure.
Yeah,
I don't know what it's about. Our foreign policy has gone the wrong way.
Yeah.
By the wrong way, I mean the same way as Biden. Since he got inaugurated, though, he ran on getting us out of foreign conflicts, and all he's done is get us into more of them. So there's no continuity there, or there's no consistency with his message when he was running, and it's the same with a lot of other things. He's given up on other than a few headline arrests with immigration. He hasn't really done any mass deportations like he promised. And he's, I mean, I personally know people who were illegal and were picked up, and then they let them go. And this was the feds. I mean, they're not serious. And I mean, I never thought they were serious anyway. I mean, even after 1986, I knew they wouldn't be serious about that. But I figured Trump would be serious about some of his campaign pledges, but he has pretty much given up on all of them.
No, it's, and I thought for sure that there was going to be like something, I thought that something was going to stay, because it's like, you don't want to just write somebody off entirely, right? And it's like, okay, well, maybe there's the potential for him to want to stick or adhere. But I mean, it's gotten so bad that I've seen people start calling him Biden 2.0 with how bad that some of his dispositions are. And, and you had just, you brought up a couple other things domestically that he's been doing, and which if you would like, I would love to get into some of the domestic things and the economic things, because I haven't kept up on it nearly as much as I probably should have, but there's a lot going on, and notwithstanding the immigration things and the foreign policy things, but really, I mean, it's not like he just did a 180. It's almost like he just walked away from all of it, and he's just, and really, like, he's just doing seemingly whatever he wants to do. It's not even just like disavowing. He's just doing whatever he wants to do in the hopes that like people are just going to go with it. And I will say, like, I do think there is to some degree, like, as many have alluded to, it's like he just makes decisions at this point where whoever the last person who bent his ear, that's the way he tends to go. It's hard to say, but
Yeah,
I
and
did
he's
make
appointed
that.
almost all establishment people to do it. So they're the ones
Yeah,
bending his ear on almost everything, right? I mean, it's all like
yeah,
old Biden people or old George Bush people. I mean, that's
yeah,
what it is. So why would he do anything different? But he has done a few things different, but it's worse. I mean, one of my big criticisms of Joe Biden is that was his student loan forgiveness program, which was not run through
yeah,
Congress. The president is not a legislator. He doesn't have the power to spend money. And if you go back to the Constitution, I mean, there's only the basic powers of Congress are the powers to raise taxes, spend money, and declare war. And
yeah,
guess what Donald Trump is saying he has the power to do? Raise taxes, spend money, and declare war. I mean, it's just,
yeah,
and Biden was halfway there. He wanted to
yeah,
spend taxes and declare war. He just didn't spend money and declare war. He just didn't want to raise
yeah,
taxes. And
right.
Trump has said, no, I'll take that one too. That's where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah, oh man, it's wild. And there is actually a interesting question that I want to pop up for you here because I am kind of curious to know what you think too. Pertaining to like, do you think that actually almost being killed, changed the way that Trump did things? Or and I've suggested that like even perhaps that like maybe this is potentially who he always was, and it's just starting to leach out to the surface. So like what's your kind of opinion on that? Because I think that's an interesting question.
Yeah, I, it might be that was part of it.
Yeah,
Uh, you know, the establishment came in and said, hey, like, we're going to kill you
yeah,
if you don't change your mind, which is possible. But I think he's always been a BSer, right?
sure,
There's a difference between a liar and a bullshitter. All right. A liar
yeah,
expects you to believe their lies. But Trump will come out and say, like he did a couple of days ago, maybe it was even yesterday, and said, oh, well, I'm putting a 30% tariff on upholstered furniture because it's national security. All right. Now, like, nobody believes that's national security. Okay. There's nobody that believes that, right?
yeah,
That's being a bullshitter. That's not being a liar. A
yeah,
liar tries to craft it where you believe it.
yeah,
And he's always been that way. He's always been this sort of larger than life New York braggadocio. I'm the
sure,
best. Everything I do is great. Everything that everyone else does is the worst. This is a total disaster. That's always been Trump.
yeah,
Uh, and he's also been in the establishment his whole life. I mean, going
yeah,
back to he was testifying before Congress in the Reagan administration. I mean, that's, before many of your listeners even were born. I mean, he's been around and he knows Washington, and he's been funding both the Democrats and the Republicans for decades. So
yeah,
I don't think, I mean, here's the thing, like nobody in their own heart says I've totally sold out. I mean, maybe a few people, but
yeah,
I think he went into it thinking, I want to turn a few things around, because he's always talked about, I want to raise tariffs, I want to control
sure,
immigration. He's always, I mean, going back, you listen to his speeches back in the 80s, and he was talking about the same things. The
right,
only thing is, instead of China taking our jobs, it was Japan taking our jobs. But I mean, he always had the interest in those issues. So I think he
hmm,
wants to do something, but you know, he's about as deep as a half-inch pool, right? I mean, he doesn't have any knowledge. I
yeah,
mean, he didn't even read the own book that he had ghostwritten for himself. I mean, it's just, this is not a guy
yeah,
who's very, very knowledgeable. And I think he's easy to, push over. And the
sure,
establishment didn't like him at first because they they saw that he had some ideas that they didn't
yeah,
like, for example, getting out of wars. And that was a non-starter for the establishment. And they tried, as a
right,
result, they tried to Russiagate him with the Russiagate hoax. They tried to, get rid of him. But after 4 years with Biden being a zombie president, they realized, we went through 4 years of Trump and we didn't really have to do anything. Even when he said get the troops out of Syria, we didn't even have to listen to him. We just kept the troops in there. So we could have a zombie president again. And actually, as you know, the establishment preferred electing Biden because they could just run the show, right? And when Biden couldn't be elected, they said, well, what's the next best thing? Well, we'll pick someone with no principles. We'll pick Kamala Harris. She'll do whatever we say. And Trump, he's messing things up with his "I've got a new tariff every day" thing. That's just terrible for world trade. Like, if you're going to do tariffs, you have to understand a few things that he doesn't understand. All right.
Sure.
Like, for example, he did when he announced his tariffs, he said they were reciprocal, which they weren't, but they were this sort of top to bottom, every single product. And I think I mentioned this on the show months ago when I was on, where we talked about tariffs.
I think so. Yeah.
In the 19th century, the congressmen were knowledgeable, and they said, well, there's a difference between tariffing finished goods and tariffing raw materials, because if you tariff finished goods, okay, maybe you can protect the industries here in America. But if you tariff everything, including raw materials, then you make the production of, and the manufacturing in America inexpensive and uneconomic to export, because the price of the product goes up. So nobody's going to want to sell it abroad because they don't have the tax on it abroad. So Trump does not understand that. His understanding is super shallow, always was, and that's why as a businessman, he increased his inheritance, but not compared to, like, if he'd just taken his dad's money and put it in the Standard & Poor's 500, he would have made a lot more money than he did as an investor, because he, and the thing is, like, he happened to be in one of the best industries, the real estate industry, which really got subsidized, especially after 2000, but really from the 1970s on, with inflation, is a huge subsidy for both the real estate and the financial sectors.
Right.
So he was in a subsidized industry. I mean, if he had gotten his money in the 19th century, he'd have gone bankrupt. He did actually go bankrupt a number of times, already. But I mean, he would have been in the poorhouse bankrupt, because back then land speculators, they lost everything. Because they would bet on land going up, and it wouldn't go up, and it would go down, and then they'd be holding the bag. And that, but Trump's business acumen, however much he's gotten his accolades, it's not that great. I mean, it's not terrible. I mean, the Democrats like to say, "Oh, he's a total disaster." Like, he's successfully used lawyers and accountants, and he did increase his financial wealth, his wealth over time, but not to the extent that a smart person otherwise would have. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And, and I think too, when you look at a lot of the decision making, you look at, not just domestic things, but like, you just look at the way that, like, just foreign policy is conducted too. A lot of people have said, like, well, he comes at this from that real estate mindset, to where it's like everything is a deal, everything is a real estate deal to be negotiated. And and the crazy thing is like, it's like, when that's all you look at, like, you miss the broader picture. Like, in the end of the day, like, you're missing the fact that, like, other people have different points of view. They bring other things to bear to the conversation. And if you're missing the entire conversation with the idea of, like, oh, well, like, it's going to be the biggest thing. Okay. It's going to be so great. We're going to do big things. Okay. The greatest things. And it's like, and it's like, when you look at the way he deals with different countries, like, we're going to put a tariff on them. Okay. They're going to come to our side. It's going to be great. It's like, yeah, but you're you're missing the whole point as to why they're doing what they're doing. And when you're not like, when you're just not involved in the conversation and you go at it as like just some other deal to be won, like, how do you think you're going to come out of this situation like any better than what you started? And it really does seem like when he goes after, say like India or whoever, he has this idea of like, oh, they're going to come to our side, like they're going to stop buying the Russian gas. It's just like, I don't, I don't know how, I don't know through this linear way of thinking that he, in his mind, he's like, oh, this is just going to work well, when clearly like India for, I think like 2 weeks just stopped picking up the phone to the guy. Cause it's just like, no, like you, how are you expected to deal this way? Like, and so I do think that like this pervasive sense of just everything is a real estate deal really like clouds his ability to adequately like even talk, deal with, negotiate, even be diplomatic with people, because there's always something to get, right? So, and I think that does, like, in the end of the day, it very much does affect us here at home, because it's like if you don't even have somebody who can competently like go forth and like diplomatically approach people, and everything is just this deal to be won, it's like I don't see how we get anywhere, but I don't know. Am I wrong, Tom?
No, well, you're right, but let me put another cow pie on top of that already
Oh
sour
boy.
sandwich. They, as bad as him saying everything's a deal and going back and forth, and when he's not in real estate mode, when he's saying I'm going to be a tough guy, then he's
Yeah.
even worse.
You're not wrong.
I mean
Yeah.
that blowing up these Venezuelan boats that I mean it's murder.
Absolutely
I mean
obliterated them.
I mean that's the thing. Like it's murder. I mean like
Yeah.
just because he's the president doesn't mean he can't commit murder.
Right.
I mean that
Yeah.
they could easily have just put a depleted uranium round through the
Sure.
engines of all of those boats and left them dead on the water and picked them up and arrested them and taken in the drugs and gotten information. If they really wanted
Yeah.
to fight the drug war, they would have gotten information out of them. But instead,
Oh,
what
yeah.
does he do? He just I want to kill them. He's a killer. I mean,
Yep.
admittedly, every president is a killer, but Donald Trump is several notches of average when it comes to being a killer. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It's it really is a pretty big problem when you're seeing, and I think we're starting to see this more and more, but like you're really starting to see this linear scope of like just doing things arbitrarily, right? Like it's wild, because I remember even back in 2016, I'm Mr. Constitution. Okay, it's going to be the greatest thing. We're bringing it back. And it's like all of a sudden it's like 2016 happened. He was terrible on the 2A. He was terrible on a lot of other things. And then it's just like, it's not going to be that way anymore. Okay. Like I've learned from my mistakes. And then it's like not even the first year in. And, we've bombed Iran. We're continuing to bomb Somalia. We've destroyed like 4 Venezuelan vessels. We continue to,
He broke his own record on bombing Yemen. He broke his own record on bombing Yemen.
Yeah, yep. No, that's exactly it. And it's like, it really, and it seems like with every single consecutive thing, it's like he just like appoints himself more and more and more authority to do this, because it's like, well, I'm the president, like I can do this, and it's like, yeah, but under what authority? Like, and really it just becomes self-appointed authority. It's not even like acknowledging the Constitution or anything like that. It's just like, I'm doing this and this is the way it's going to be. And unfortunately, and I'll say it, when you just have lapdogs like Rubio and Hegseth and all of these other guys that just go along with it, yes boss, okay boss, whatever, it's like, no, it's no wonder that we have this situation to where increasingly there is a growing hostility towards at least the US government, in where people are going away. They're walking away from any deals. They're wanting to go their own way. And as a matter of fact, when I had Scott on a couple episodes ago, I like what he said, because he's like, look, it's all of the, like, what you're finding is like Russia and China and in India and so many of these other countries, Brazil, like, it's not even that they want to be like, outward like enemies, right? Like they just want to do their own thing. They just want to exist outside of the sphere. And that's where you get things like BRICS, right? And it's like, and for whatever reason, like, we just can't allow people to exist without our sphere of influence. And as a result, that means like, oh, you're going to be our friend, but you're going to be our friend at like the end of a cudgel, because we want you to do what we want. And it's just like, it's really just a growing egregious amount of activity that really is not conducive to building friends. It's this idea, it really emphasizes the empire mentality, right?
Absolutely. And then domestically too, I mean, the same thing. I mean, he is taking, like, you could go down the list of Article 1, Section 7, Article 1, Section 8 of all of Congress's powers. Congress is responsible for disciplining and calling out the National Guard. So what does Trump do without Congress? Oh, well, I'm going to send the National Guard to LA and Chicago and DC. And who's in charge of having all of the powers over the Capital District? Is it the president? Nope. According to the Constitution, it's Congress.
Right.
But Trump is going to send the National Guard there. I mean, it's just one power after another he's taken, and
sure.
It doesn't faze him. And I am shocked that so many people are actually going along with it. I mean, like, the tariffs 100% are coming down. I read the SCOTUS brief that the Trump administration set up to the Supreme Court on the tariffs, and it's super weak. It basically says, Congress basically gave us their power, the power to do whatever we want with tariffs 40 years ago, so we can do whatever we want. And I mean, they cited 3 different laws, but that's basically what they said.
Sure.
And it's not gonna. I mean, like, there is not enough crack in the world to smoke that would get anyone to believe that SCOTUS is not going to strike these tariffs down. There just isn't. But yet people are like, well, I don't know. Let's see. Let's hope. I mean, why would you hope that? Why would you hope that Joe Biden would get the unlimited power to raise taxes?
Right.
Because he says it's national security. Why would you do that? Yeah, that's just crazy. That's just crazy talk. But the people in Trump adulation syndrome, they just don't get it. They're just like, oh well, he's trying to make things better. He's trying to get these tariffs that are going to help and bring manufacturing back. I'm like, one, no, they're not going to. If you understood economics, they're not doing it. I mean, there is a strategy where you might do that under certain circumstances,
right?
But Trump is not following that strategy, so no. All right. But they don't care about the Constitution. They don't understand economics, so they're not concerned about, Trump issuing a new tariff every day is upsetting international trade. And then the funny thing is, like, they cheered the I don't know if you saw any of the GDP numbers that have come out over the last month, but the first quarter, they initially said it was a negative growth. And then the second quarter, they said, it came out just recently, was 3-point-something%. It was really high growth.
Sure.
It was really strong growth. And then they revised the other one to say it was like basically flat. I think it was like a tiny positive, like 0.something%. But all of that is the tariffs in action changing the levels of imports and exports. Because when we export something, that increases the GDP. But when we import something, it decreases the GDP. So what happened is, in the first quarter, they knew the tariffs were coming, so they imported extra stuff so they wouldn't run out and wouldn't have to pay the tariff. And in the second quarter, they didn't import anything. So that was an addition. Like, instead of subtracting all these imports that are coming in, Now they're not subtracting that anymore. That's why the economic growth was great. And all the people are just, all the Trump guys are like,
Yeah.
yeah, Trump's really kicking the economy. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
he's not. Okay. This is a one-off. Okay.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a two-off, because he's really messing with international trade right now. And
For
not
sure.
not in a good way. But it's going to hurt us, not in the sense that I'm predicting some great crash. I don't think that's going to
Sure.
happen, but it is going to have an impact on us. It already has. I mean, like, I go to the grocery store and I pay almost twice as much for my coffee,
Sure.
my ground coffee, that I did just 6 months ago. I buy this 24-ounce can, and it used to be $6.99 on sale. And I buy the generic, now it's $12.99. Okay, so it's just it's more, and all the other stuff, especially with the tariffs from India. Well, what do we get from India? All the women are going to be really mad, because all the pumpkin spice spices are coming from India. It's the cinnamon and nutmeg and stuff like that. That's what they're native to. So we're going to be paying more for our pumpkin pie and our pumpkin spice lattes or whatever. Right. I mean, it's just, and we're not going to get that back. I think when the Supreme Court strikes down the tariffs, the importers are going to come back and say, look, these were unconstitutional tariffs. We want a rebate. We want our money back. And I think they're going to get it.
Yeah. Well, and Centerline just put out something interesting regarding like some of the products that he uses. And I mean, he's even seen it too. And now tell me if I'm wrong, but are we like in opposition to Austria? Are we in opposition to some of these countries? Because the other thing I've noticed with tariffs, Tom, is the fact of like, oh, well, we know you're friends of ours, but like, we're going to put them on you anyways, because like, I don't know, like, it just seems to be the right thing to do. It's weird, like the way that it's layered, right? Like, it's not even like just like people that supposedly we have an adversarial relationship with. It's just like, nah, like, we're going to put some over here too. And the thing is like, from everything I've understood, like, we were making headway with India. Like, India was coming over slowly but surely kind of to our side. And then like, it's like, now like we can't have you buying stuff from this other country, i.e. Russia, right? So it's like, so we're just going to slap you with a massive tariff, and and we're going to punish you. And a lot of people have said, like, if this is the way that the United States treats its friends and quote unquote allies, then like how is it that like anybody should be expected to do business with us? And when you look at the domestic side of everything, I mean, you elaborated on it perfectly. And I do kind of want to dig a little bit more into that, but I don't know if you want to respond to Centerline at all real quick regarding what he had. I can pop that back up too if you want.
No, I see it. That's the thing. I think Trump is of the impression, well, they sell a bunch of stuff to America.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much it is, but it's a lot. It's a lot, and we're going to get them,
Yeah.
But the thing is, a country that's a net exporter like China doesn't need the United States for their market. They can sell to themselves. We are the ones who are being subsidized by the world as a net importer.
Right.
And he doesn't understand that. I mean, that's the basic economics. One of the things that has been raising our standard of living for the last, really, for 30 years or more,
sure,
it has been that we've been a net importer. And it means that we're living above our means, right? We're continually going into debt, and that's not a problem unless it's a policy that we make. In other words, when America was first developing back, early in the 19th century, we were net importers, but we were importing things to learn to make more stuff. And then we became a net exporter because we became an economic powerhouse. And we really didn't need a lot of the stuff from around the world. So what did we do? We took their in exchange. I mean, we took their money, right? We took their gold, their silver, their whatever, because even though we say we're a net importer, well, we're exporting dollars, and the dollars are losing value, and that's why countries like China, they're selling off their dollars and buying gold.
Right.
The U.S. the level of U.S. dollars and U.S. debt instruments like Treasury bills held by China, both the government and the private sector in China, is continually going down.
Sure.
There's a lot of other places like Europe and the Arab countries that have picked up the slack, but China is wising up. They're like, we don't need these guys. We're making all this stuff. We could sell it to ourselves, and that's ultimately what they're going to do. That doesn't mean manufacturing comes back to America. If we're not making stuff and they don't sell it to us, that doesn't mean we start making things unless we absolutely positively need them. I mean, the Americans are just not working as hard as they used to. I mean, we're still, I mean, I'm not saying America is down and out. We're still the wealthiest country in the world. We still make more stuff than anyone else in the world. But compared to where we could be, we're not, because of our trade policies, our tax policies, our inflation policies, everything that the federal government is doing. I saw a meme on Facebook earlier today. I thought it was funny, and it was, despite everything government does to destroy it, the U.S. economy refuses to be destroyed. And I think there's something true. There's some truth to that. There's something that you need a lot of damage to destroy a big, healthy economy like the United States government.
Sure.
And it's the same thing with our constitutional system, right? I mean, I used to work with this Russian teacher. He was a physics teacher. He's literally a rocket scientist. He worked in the Soviet rocket program.
Sure.
Jewish guy, absolutely hilarious. And he, but one of the more serious things he said to me that I always remembered, he says, it's there's corruption everywhere, but it's the level of corruption that matters. And I think that's right. It's the level, and the level is going up, but it's still not enough to really tank our economy.
Sure.
Because we've seen economies tank as a result of corruption. We see it in Venezuela. We see it in some other countries that just refuse to get out of the dark ages, whether it's North Korea or Ethiopia. These are countries that are thoroughly corrupt top to bottom in their governments, and as a result, their people live in poverty, and to the extent that they attained any prosperity whatsoever, they're in the process of gradually losing it.
Yeah.
So we could be in that situation if we let things get much worse.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and I do want to kind of, if you're okay with it, I would love to stay on the theme of like domestic issues too. And first, I want to pause it before we pivot onto a couple of things, because I do want to kind of come back to, this taking on, or this consolidation of power structure, this vacuum. But before we get into that, I want to kind of pause it to you. What really is, I guess, if you had to summarize it a little bit, what is the overall situation for the economy? Like from, in general in the United States, like, I mean, is it actually getting progressively worse at a higher rate? Is it somewhat slower? Is it something that like eventually is going to get better? I mean, we've talked about this before, but the thing is when I ask this question, like, I feel like it merits to ask it almost every time you're back on, because it changes so much, it seems. And especially with the sporadic nature that this administration seems to just be flip-flopping and changing, and 30 days and this is going to happen, then 30 days comes by, nothing happens, and then he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed one day, or whomever, and now we're just going to lower interest rates, or whatever the case is. So it's interesting to kind of get your perspective on, like, where are we exactly in this timeline, Tom?
Yeah, there's a lot of damage being done, but again, I don't see it as America going down. Maybe a temporary recession is coming in the next couple of years, but it's not. I don't think it's 2008. I don't think it's 1929. I really don't. I do think we're doing a lot that isn't working now. International trade. You think about, we have a $20 trillion economy, $3 trillion in imports, $2 trillion in exports.
Mm-hmm.
So with Trump messing with that portion of the economy, it's going to mess it up somewhat, but it's not going to tank it. So by itself, I mean, it'll have a negative impact, but it's not something that's going to put us into a great depression or send people into the streets rioting and have chaos like the French Revolution. It's just not.
Sure.
And the idea that, of course, again, I'm alone on this. I'm going to write about this again soon, about interest rates being suppressed. It definitely favors the super wealthy, the people with lots of ability to get credit, because credit leveraged investments in commodities, whether it's real estate or gold or stocks or whatever, this is the path to easy riches right now, especially when you've got inflation at a fairly elevated level. The Federal Reserve, by the way, has started to print out more money. The level of M2 reached a new high over the last couple of weeks, and it's not, they're not printing it like they did in 2020. So I don't expect 8% inflation or CPI. I don't expect the CPI to go up to 8% again, but it's not going to go down to 2% either, I don't think. Maybe if we have a recession, it'll go down for a year. But overall, I think that it's all negative. I don't see a great recovery. There's not going to be a 1983-84 style recovery for the United States, like there, under Reagan or even under Clinton. I mean, we had 3, 4, 5% economic GDP growth, and sometimes even per capita GDP growth. Most of the time, per capita GDP growth under Reagan and even into the 90s. But since then, nothing. We've never had, other than in 2021, the COVID bounce back year. We've never had any real strong growth in America. And I don't think we're headed for it either. I think there's going to be this, bring back the Jimmy Carter word, malaise. I think that's where we're headed. And the Republicans are going to lose in November of next year because the economy is going to be in the doldrums. That's why Biden lost. I mean, I hear a lot of conservatives say, oh, well, the Trump won on immigration. The libertarians shouldn't be for open immigration. I'm like, no, Trump won because the median wage for workers was down under Biden. That's the one reason. People vote their pocketbooks. I mean, there's some old boomers who are economically fine, who immigration was their number one issue. But they were going to vote Republican anyway, for the most part. Immigration didn't decide the 2024 election. What decided the 2024 election was economics.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think even though immigration is a hot button topic, I think it was more, I do agree with the fact that, like, when you look at economics, it was a lot of, people were just hopeful that they were going to have more money in their pockets and the ability to prosper a little bit more. And I think that was ultimately the message that did win out the day for him. I know a lot of people gravitated to him over his foreign policy, which, that's its own situation in and of itself now, but a self-destructive foreign policy perhaps. But, and again, like, I do think that there were these undertones also, and this might be a little bit of a pivot, but of, domestically, this idea of just like, we're gonna keep free speech, we're not gonna go after the 2A thing, we're not gonna do this, we're gonna preserve, the rights of the Americans, right? Like we're gonna bring Constitution back to this country. And when you look at the way that, and there are places that are pushing back against this, and rightfully so, but this idea of just like sending, the National Guard into these cities and doing all of these different things. And I know on its face, like a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, this is fantastic. This is the way that, like, there's no other form of recourse. These cities will never comply, or whatever the case is, like they'll never fix their problems. But the root cause of the situation as it pertains to that is the fact that, like, where is truly like the delegated authority to just arbitrarily and unilaterally do this? And it does present a very big issue, because what a lot of people don't tend to see, along with so many other things, is, say he does this, and now you have a precedent that's being set, whether it's economically, whether it's the National Guard thing, whatever it is. And all of these people, they only think in the short term, right? Just like, oh, it's going to fix everything in the short term. But then down the road, when these elections eventually come home to roost, and like you said, like I very much agree. I think the Republicans and the conservatives are 100% just going to lose it out this next cycle of elections. I think that they've more than enough lost the presidency at this point, if I have to be completely honest. And I mean, unless something drastic changes, but what happens when all of a sudden you have these other, this other side that comes in, and now they utilize and weaponize and use the mechanisms that were set as precedent by the former administration. And you're going to have people, and we've seen this before, they're going to cry up and down like they can't do this, it's unconstitutional. It's like, yeah, but where were you when it was your guy that was doing it? And nobody likes to look in the mirror and actually have that conversation, because it's convenient for them. And I think that, domestically, we're in, I mean, we've been in a very trepidatious kind of track for a while, but I mean, now, and I just want to throw one more flavor in here. Now you're seeing people like Pam Bondi of all the people. I mean, that I hate to speak ill, but the lady, oh my goodness, if there was ever a picture of a person that is not suitable for office, I mean, there's a lot, but Bondi just seems like lost in this, in the situation. Just like, oh, like hate speech, like we're gonna send people out and we're gonna stop this from happening. And like you said, like with so many instances, like people just go along with this, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, do you not realize that you are like, it, for all intents and purposes, like you are, kind of becoming the means to your own end, if that meant. I was trying to find
for sure. I mean, the Democrats are. I mean, they're in an impossible situation. That's the only thing that'll prevent the Republicans from being swept out of office.
Yeah.
Because their number one beef right now is, hey, it's not fair that you prosecute former FBI director Comey for trying to frame Trump as being a Russian agent. I mean, you can't use the office for politics. You can't use the Oval Office for politics and use the FBI for politics.
Yeah.
That's our job. I mean, that's their argument. I mean, it's terrible. I mean, but you're right. As far as free speech, Trump is as bad as Biden. I mean, in some sense, he's mostly going after, the other side. The whole Jimmy Kimmel thing. When the president says Jimmy Kimmel has to be fired, that's presidential interference in freedom of speech and freedom of press.
Right.
I think ABC was glad to get rid of it, Jimmy Kimmel,
or
they would have been if they could have gotten rid of him, because he's a failed comedian. His audience is tiny. He's not very funny. I actually never thought he was funny, but he at some point objectively had some comedy chops, but he's not funny now. I mean, kind of like Stephen Colbert, right? Colbert,
right,
when Jon Stewart was writing his jokes, was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
But as soon as he got his own show and he was free of Jon Stewart, all of a sudden he's not at all funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, but they're Trump is attacking free speech there with the, on the whole Israel front of the anti-BDS
Oh
things.
yeah.
I mean, he's attacked freedom of speech to a certain extent. Yeah, he's not going after people on the right and libertarians, but
Sure.
he's firming up the position, just
Right.
like the Democrats did, so that the next Democratic president, and the next president will likely be a Democrat,
Yeah.
will be able to persecute conservatives and libertarians.
Oh,
And
100%.
and the the Trump devotees, the Trump zombies, they just don't get it. They don't understand about this principle. A lot of them are just like, I don't care. We already lost the First Amendment. Let's just go with our guy. And I'm like, your guy is 80. Your guy is 80.
Right.
How long do you think this is going to last?
Yeah.
I mean, come on,
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is wild. It just, especially some of the excuses, and the things that people say to justify, like, their team, and I just did something on political parties and factionism and all of that, 1 or 2 episodes ago. I don't even remember my own episodes, apparently. but but it is crazy though, because it's like you do see these people and they do get so fanatical, and I would even say, like, without hesitation, like cult, like these people will literally jump in front of a train if you told them to do it, if they thought that it was going to get their team it over the finish line, right? And it's man, I mean, it's not saying that all people are like this that support Trump or whatever the case is, but there really is, like, just a core group of people that
right.
it's
That's an important
thing.
distinction to make. Yeah.
It's and it's the same thing. A lot of people criticize the vote blue no matter who people, and it's like, yeah, but you're those people, just with a different color. That's like,
no, I don't have a problem with someone who voted for Trump and saying, like my dad, he goes,
yeah,
I know he's an a-hole, but he's better than the other guy. I mean, that's why, like, and same thing with the other side. Like, I know Kamala Harris is useless, but she's better than the other guy. I can work with that. But the whole, my team can do no wrong. And then you just sort of flip your principles once the office is left. I have this photo of myself, and it's I don't know. I wonder if I could put it up. But it's a spectrum, okay? And
sure.
in the middle is a picture of me. On the left is a picture of me with tie-dyed and hippie and everything, and the right is me with the the camo and face paint, and a gun, or I think it's a knife, whatever. But a knife in my teeth. That's what it was. But and I have it so that the spectrum swings when the presidential election goes. So when there's a Republican in office, it swings to, hey, I'm a left-wing hippie. And when there's a Democrat in the office, I'm a right-wing militia guy, because I'm just staying in the same place, and these guys are changing their positions daily.
Yeah, it's oh man, it's so difficult. And I do think that is one of those things, invariably, like if you really put your if you, how am I trying to say this? If you're somebody who really, like, is involved in, like, this, this liberty sphere, right? Like in more of the libertarian tilt and all of this, it is amazing. It is amazing to me how it's almost these dispositions are assigned to you by default. Like I have been called so many different things, by the right or by the left. It's just like, I don't know, like, dude, I'm just in the center. It's just like, well, if you don't agree with me, like, you're obviously a lefty. And if you don't agree with me, you're obviously on the right. It's like, well, I don't really, like, ascribe to either of those, but that's pretty insane, considering the fact that, like, at one point in time, like, if you're talking to a lefty, it's like, well, you were against the wars in the Middle East. Like, what happened? like you were on the right track at one point,
Right, exactly. But with Trump, he doesn't, he doesn't have principles. So,
Well,
all right, let me
he
see if I
saw.
can, let me see if I can present this. I've
Yeah.
got the video. I mean, the picture. Let's see.
Um, if anything, I can add it to stage 2, Tom.
Oh yeah, I think you have to. I put it up
Okay.
there, but I think you have to. There you go.
Go.
That's a picture there.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then because right now it's moving to the hippie me. This is you can tell it's an old picture because I have no
Yeah.
gray. But and when the Democrat is president, it swings to the right, and I've become the militia guy. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's it. You can lower it. I just that's the picture
That's
I used.
fantastic. That's awesome. Yeah, it's oh man, it's just it's such a wild time right now. And I just trying to keep up with all of it is really it is really overwhelming. Just to see like so many things that are going on, and obviously, domestically, just the free speech thing, just the whole like National Guard thing, and the whole, just all of this fighting, and I'm right and you're wrong, and then it's just like all of the turmoil, and all of the flipping and flopping back and forth as it pertains to foreign policy and domestic policy and all of these different things. Like it becomes a lot, and then when you add in all of or everything that comes along with like the economic point of view when it comes to all of that, like I do feel like I kind of go underwater with all of it, because it's like, okay, do I focus on this one week? Do I focus on that one week? And I do think to some degree, like just the saturation is almost by design to make it so overwhelming for most people that it's like, okay, well, I'm just not going to pay attention to any of it because I can't possibly keep up with the day-to-day grind, the day-to-day basis of everything. And I've talked about this before, and I think like if that's where a lot of people are, then like I would say maybe just have more of an inward focus on your own community. Do the thing, look at things that possibly are at least tangibly within arm's reach that you could potentially have an effect on. And not saying that like you shouldn't pay attention to other things, but I think to bring it down to a more grounded level, like maybe that's more of a perspective most of us should maybe look at. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the chaos and the controversy that we
Yeah.
have is in a way a confirmation of the righteousness of the libertarian philosophy, because
Mm,
when government has very few responsibilities, there's not really a lot of arguing about it.
yeah.
I mean, but if government is responsible for having a Department of Agriculture when I eat my food, when I go to work and it has a Department of Commerce, when I
Sure.
go home to my home and there's a Department of Housing and Urban Development, when
Yeah.
there's a department for everything, a
Right.
Food and Drug Administration, a Medicare, like I deal with my healthcare. When
Mm,
government deals with everything, then everything becomes political. But if
yeah.
government is not involved in those things, then it's not political, and there isn't this
Sure.
kind of discourse, because everything becomes when everything's a federal issue, then everything is controversial, and
Sure.
that's where we're at. uh,
Right.
100 years ago, yeah, people argued over politics, but it wasn't like this. It didn't split families. It
Mm,
didn't, you know what I mean?
right. Yeah.
Heck,
Absolutely.
15 years ago, it didn't split families.
Yeah.
It took a long time for that mentality to seep in,
Yeah.
and it took a long time after all of these departments were created. And that's why I think, getting they're doing the censorship thing, because
Yeah.
they last that's the last one that they have to take.
Yeah.
That's the last freedom they have to take away, your right to speak out and be heard.
Sure.
Because your right to freedom of speech is also the right to freedom of press. It's not your right
Yeah.
to speak in your house alone. It's to speak
Right.
out and be heard.
Yeah.
And that's what they're trying to take away. They don't care if just like they try to box church into a building, like, oh yeah, you
Right.
have freedom of religion to do whatever you want. It's like, no, dude, you don't even understand what religion is. It changes your whole life. You build your whole life around it. If you think church is just like going to an Elks Club meeting, you don't
Right.
understand what it is. It's not a once, 45 minutes once a week type of thing.
Right.
It's your whole life.
Yeah.
And speech is kind of like that.
Yeah.
Speech is, hey, this is what I'm about. This is what I believe. This is how I express myself. When
Yes.
they try to take that away, that's kind of the last thing.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree. And especially surrounding, I mean, again, I'm going to start, maybe I'll have to start doing a segment now, just given how bad everything that Bondi says, called Bondi's blunders or something like that. Maybe it's a short segment or something like of that type of creation. But
It might be a
it is
longer segment.
amazing, genuinely, how she's just like, oh, like this is like this. Like she basically treats people who say like a naughty word as like just an avowed terrorist. It's like, oh, all right, Bondi, you mean the same terrorists that we just put up in Syria, for instance? You mean the same people that we propped up and propagated and funded? Like, because if that's the case, can I get some of that dirty government fiat too? Because like, if that's how you're going to treat me, at some point you're going to need me, Bondi, and I expect my check to be in the mail when that time comes around. Because in the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as many other people are concerned, as well as the founders, like hate speech is a protected form, and that there's a lot of things that people say that we don't agree with, and that happens on a daily basis. But I'm here to tell you, it simply because of what somebody says to you, simply because that hurts your feelings or makes you feel some kind of way, that's protected speech. Like that's my right to say that. And Bondi treating it, people that have a difference of, especially a difference of opinion as it pertains to the government's policies, because really, like, I get the sense that that's really what the primary driver is it's not so much just a speech issue as it is like we are trying to create a situation or a system where we want to make it to where you are violating the law somehow by saying something bad about whatever the administration is doing. And we kind of, you brought up the BDS thing as it pertains to Israel. Like we already, we already are getting in trouble. There are already ramifications for people even being outspoken about Israel. And in the end of the day, like, oh gosh, I think now I could be wrong, but I think, a while back, Charlie Kirk had even mentioned, he was like, isn't it odd how like it's seemingly the press or people in Israel have more of an ability to speak out about Israel than Americans do here in America, right? I'm pretty sure he's the one that brought that up. And it's like,
Doesn't
yeah,
surprise me. Yeah.
what does that tell you? So it's not only just protecting the government apparatus that exists here, it's protecting the government apparatus in places like Israel. And to be fair, in all fairness, Ukraine is no different, because for a long time, and I think very subtly still, a lot of people are on Ukraine's little black list of people that they would love to see just disappear. So, I mean, it is a very serious issue. And like I said, look, if that makes me the bad guy, well, send your dirty government fiat down the road whenever you find a use for terrible human beings that just say what they think. So,
yeah, let me go a step further. I agree
yeah, please
100% with
do.
what you say about government shouldn't be involved in doing any
Yeah,
of this
yeah,
censorship, and the attorney general should not be calling for people to be fired,
yeah.
especially in the case of someone like Jimmy Kimmel, who works for a company that is a government contractor, right? They have the ability, and
Right.
they don't just have an FEC license,
Yeah,
which they do, that Trump threatened to pull. They're also federal contractors. They have
yeah,
contracts from the federal government. And so that is the pressure that's being exerted. But let me go a
right.
little further, because one of the things that I heard, a lot of people, a lot of liberals who are, let's face it, the ones that were celebrating Charlie Kirk's death
Yeah.
And most of the ones they were complaining about, people got fired, didn't actually
Yeah.
celebrate his death. They were trying to be snarky about something else, but some of them actually did, and they're lunatics. Okay, I give you, but
Yeah.
a lot of times, I mean, just about everybody has had that lunatic moment online because we live our lives online now.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
going to have to get thicker skins. It is. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be shocked, but when you think about it, calling for someone to lose their livelihood, their job,
Yeah.
maybe make their family and their kids homeless because they said something really stupid online is, in my opinion, an immoral thing. But all the right wingers who are defending the firing of Jimmy Kimmel and the firing of the Charlie Kirk things. I'm referring more to the Charlie Kirk stuff.
Yeah.
They were saying, well, I don't want someone who would advocate murder working for me.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm like, dude, you do. You have people who advocated for the Iraq war who like the Venezuelan boat murders. You have people who, the difference is the people who advocated murder in your case happen to have a badge and a costume. That's it. That's the only difference. You don't really believe what you're saying. You don't. If you thought it through, you wouldn't. And if you thought it through, I want this person to lose their livelihood. I want their kids to go hungry because they said something stupid online. Come on, but people are into this. We're going into a civil war stuff. And no, we're not. All right, we're not. There's no appetite for it. There would be hundreds or thousands of these kinds of assassinations if we were headed for that. There isn't. All right. It's a couple of people who have lost their minds who are doing it. That's it. And it's on both sides. Yes. Of course, the right says, oh, it's all left wingers doing the shootings. And the left says it's all right wingers doing the shootings. And the reason is when a left winger does it, they're not really left wing. And when a right winger does it, they're not really right wing. Right. I mean, let's face it. The difference between a right-wing extremist and a left-wing extremist is if you say someone is a left-wing extremist, it means you identify with the right and you don't like that person.
Yeah.
And if you say someone is a right-wing extremist, it means you identify with something that is the left and you don't like that person. That's all it means. I mean, today, we talk about these principles, about Comey getting prosecuted or Trump getting prosecuted or whatever.
Right.
They flip the principle as quickly as the D and R are flipped in the office.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So it's not about principles. It's about team sports for this segment.
And what's interesting too is, so like I'm going back through Ron Paul's book. Oh gosh, what was it? Liberty Defined: 50 Essential Issues That Affect Our Freedom, if I remember the title correctly. And there is a portion in his book where he talks about the same conversation of how like, oh, well, like, here's a really good example of the point that I'm trying to make. And he was talking about how people, that talk about, speech and how speech can be violence and all of these different things. And he's like, okay, well, like if we're going to use that metric, then how is it that people like Bill O'Reilly and so many others came out and literally called for the death of Julian Assange, after the whole WikiLeaks, like seriously. And I posted that in one of the chats I'm in, and I'm like, okay, like, you cannot say that the right has not done this before. And I know what people are going to say. Oh, well, I don't associate with them. It's like, yeah, except for the fact that like, if it was 10 years ago, you still probably watched Bill O'Reilly. And in the end of the day, at one point you did. And I'm not saying that necessarily makes you a bad person today. But the point is like, look, like, it's not just a left issue. It is a right issue too. And it's a right issue, whether it's Assange, whether it's people like Snowden, because people settled many of the same things about Snowden, and all of these people that, are trying to show you the corruption and all of these things that are going on. Like, those are the people a lot of the right doesn't like. It's like, how dare you expose the apparatus that I support? And, so may be somewhat different situations, but in the end of the day, like the rhetoric still comes out on both sides. And I think that's important for a lot of people to see, is like, it's the same thing in terms of, violence that occurs. Like, you may have the left that, maybe does a lot more domestically, but okay, if that's the case, if that's the thing that we're going to go on here as it pertains to left and right, then I would say that, like, okay, well, the right is equally as violent because they advocate for, bombing countries all over the world with impunity. You show me that, some people might say, well, the difference is, like, one is American citizens. It's like, no, like, murder is murder, no matter where the geographic location is. And the fact remains that in the end of the day, like, it is perpetrated or it is advocated or whatever the case is by somewhere in the government apparatus, and it gets the sign off on it. And that's all people need to know.
Yeah. And the militarism follows Americans home. I mean, the militarism definitely follows Americans home, and 100%. We saw that with the deployment of the National Guard. We see that with the tariffs. Like, with Trump saying, "Oh, tariffs! We have to put a tariff on bathroom fixtures because it's national security."
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, I could see the upholstered furniture being national security because a lot of those big generals are chair moisteners, and that's really what they are. But right. I mean, the rest of it, come on. I mean, that the national security apparatus keeps getting expanded, and it doesn't stop at the border. It has to fill up the whole world, and that's where we're at.
Right.
Yeah,
it's it's really crazy, and there just, again, this emphasizing this whole vacuum of people that are just like, oh, the left did it or the right did it or what. It's like, no, like, you slow down for a second and just evaluate the picture, realize that you're just stuck in the middle of this factional, this party-esque vacuum of war, and both, in the end of the day, create chaos, destruction, instability. And I hate to say it, but like, you're all suckers, like you keep falling for it and believing the fact that, like, the average everyday American is somehow, like, supposed to be your enemy. And for whatever reason, that this pretended, or as the founders put, like, any threat that's real or pretended, is this causation of having to go and fight somewhere else. It's like, no, like, in the end of the day, and I'll say this blatantly, like, if people want to know exactly where the primary problem is, it sits in Washington. It sits in your own backyards, not with your fellow man 9 times out of 10, but where it concerns, in the end of the day, of your own capitals and all of that. And, I could just see under Pam Bondi's guidelines, like, oh, that's seditious behavior. Well, whatever then, Bondi, okay, you and your wonderful blunders. In the end of the day, you don't like it because you are doing things that are so antithetical to the American fabric that you have the nerve to sit here and label me and many other people like a domestic terrorist because I espoused a view you don't like. That just out to you as being a tyrannical piece of shit.
Yeah, so. I mean, she keep in mind, she's the Attorney General who presided over. Now, her job is to defend the law and particularly the Constitution. And she has been Attorney General during the time Trump usurped the power to tax with the tariffs. Trump usurped the power to declare war with the bombings in Yemen and Iran and in what's the other country he bombed? Yemen, Iran. Well, he bombed one other country, whatever. And he usurped the power of Congress to control the militia. By sending the militia out, he usurped the power of Congress to control exclusively what happens in Washington, D.C. by sending the militia into Washington, D.C. Like, you could go down the list, and she's like, yeah, I'm up for that. And it's just, no, that's the opposite of your job. You're supposed to tell the president that's unconstitutional. You can't do that. But she's acting like the advisor to the president, of like, who's sort of the president's personal attorney of like, how do I take the most power? Okay, well, here's how you do it. And she's defending those things rather than going
Yeah.
after them. That's not the job. Yes. No, I thank you, Centerline Systems. It wasn't Venezuela I was looking for, because Venezuela is a separate case.
Oh, yeah.
A separate, the boats in Venezuela are a separate usurpation. They're which one was that now? I'm trying to think. Shoot, I can't remember the power, but that is definitely not. I guess you could argue it's war power, but still, it's just. Let me think. Who's got? He's bombed Yemen. He's bombed Iran, and he's bombed what other
Well,
Middle Eastern country?
there's Somalia too, but that's been a perpetual
Oh,
thing.
Somalia.
Yeah.
Somalia. Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I do have to throw this in here, and I have to admit, okay, this is not my own point of thought. So I have to admit this. But again, I love watching Colonel Daniel Davis's show. I think he does a really good job. He just had Scott Horton on. It was a great segment. And but they pointed out, actually, I don't remember if it was Scott or with McGregor, but it was this point too, like when you look at the way that like this infection of like, oh, like Me Too, like it's Me Too, but like on a larger domestic and foreign level. But have you ever noticed that also, and this is a slight pivot, so I apologize, it's my squirrel brain at this point of the week, but Centerline actually brought up like the drones, and it's like, have you ever noticed that like with the Russian drone thing and the incursions, like it started with one, and then more countries were like, oh, well, they did it to me too. And it was the same thing with the Chinese air balloons. Like one or two drifted over into the US, and everybody's like, oh, that happened to me too. And then you saw the thing that happened, with the drones in New Jersey. And then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, like this is happening to us too. And it's this crazy thing too, to where it's just like, everybody's got to be involved. Like we've all got to be this like perpetual, like, oh, this happened to us too. And it's crazy because when you look at like this hype and this hysteria, like they were kind of putting around this point of just like, doesn't anybody ever sit back and just be like, dude, like, how is it that all of these places simultaneously all of a sudden just have all of these events going on at the same time, and nobody tends to question it? It's always this idea too of just like, oh, wow, like that's really weird. We should question like, the fact that this is happening all over. Yeah, okay, like I can get along with that, but like let's also question the fact too, like when all of a sudden you start having more and more and more and more people, that these events, and it's not limited just to them, but these different events, to where it's just like, isn't it kind of weird that it just all happens to multiply like very quickly and everybody tends to be involved? It's very weird to me, whether it's domestic or a foreign issue.
Yeah, I think things tend to go viral. I mean, the drones were always there,
Yep.
or not always, but they have been increasingly there. And then
Sure.
someone notices them, then all of a sudden it's, hey, yeah, it's here too. It's here. That type of thing.
Right.
The people see balloons everywhere. I think there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of times they have these internet memes where there's like an obsession every month. I remember.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
When was the Chinese balloon thing? Was that 2023?
I think it was 23. I want to say it was 23. Yeah.
There was like some obsession every week, and they were just
Oh, I know. Yeah.
checking the. Maybe it was every month, but it was like they were checking the boxes, and they had something new every month.
Yeah.
And that everybody was talking about, and
right.
I think that's just part of our media landscape. I mean, we're going to have to adjust to it. I think.
Oh yeah.
In many respects, I think that people younger than me, I mean, I'm almost 60. They're going to adjust to it better. They're going to assume, hey, I lived my whole life in this. Of course, that's happening over there, and this is something else happening over there, and I'm not going to worry about it.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of that, and I predict that a lot of this firing for a to kind of loop it back to the Charlie
Yeah.
Kirk thing. You
Yeah.
fire
Please
someone
do.
for some social media comment, whether it's about that or something else. I think that's going to go away too, because people are going to just see it as some kind of offhand remark that
Yeah.
someone who didn't like it heard, and I think they're
Sure.
just basically going to say, look, just don't keep doing that. And the only
Yeah.
people who are in the future, the only people who are going to get fired are the ones who really just want to get fired by keep saying
Oh yeah, for
the
sure.
most offensive
Yeah.
thing, because there were always those kind of people who just
Yeah.
don't want to get along. But if you have a bad moment or two, nobody's going to be fired for that. I think
Yeah.
in the future, I think that people are going to have a better attitude. I think
Right.
there's going to be a different understanding of media going forward, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do find that this whole situation interesting to kind of stay with where you brought it back. But this, when you look back around the Rona times, the COVID times, how many people were just up in arms by like, oh, like I've been doxxed or I've been outed or whatever. And and people are using that as a justification to get back at other people. And it's like, no, like that's like it you're at this juncture, like you're just perpetuating the cycle. Like, and
That's
at
it.
some point, it's like, where does it end? Like, it's like, oh, you're like, you just want revenge. Like, that's your only thing. It's like, okay, well, like, what does that get you in the end of the day? It's the same. It's along the same lines too of like, and you kind of brought it up with like the whole like Civil War, like theory that a lot of people have. It's like, oh, like we're near the edge, like we're looking into the abyss.
Yeah.
And the one question nobody's ever been able to answer is like, okay, great. So this happens. What's your plan though? And nobody has a plan. Nobody can tell me what the plan is like after. Nobody can tell me like how they're going to rebuild society after. And not to be mean, but like it really does kind of show just like the sheer ignorance of so many people where you have this just emotional reaction to something, this visceral emotional reaction to something, totally like unreasonable, unrational. And we've all kind of been there before. I'm not going to omit myself. Like I've had moments like that, but it's like when you step back in hindsight and you look at this, it's like, okay, but like, what's your plan? You know? And then it's like, if it's not pertaining to that, and you're looking at a situation to where it's like, oh, now I have the power to be able to like get you fired, right? Like there really is this situation to where it's just like, okay, but like, so what do you get from that? Like, how
Yeah.
does it better your life in the end of the day? Like seeing that, like, Heather, like an intern with like purple hair and whatever, like said a comment and like, so now she's gone. Like, okay, so like, did you get a tax break? Did you get more money for your job? Did your mortgage decrease? Did you change the outcome? Did you affect or make a difference in your own community? Like, show me like what it is that how you benefited from this, because I'm here to tell you, like, it's going to happen to you the next time the other side gets in. And I don't want to hear you sit here and complain when it does happen to you, because you just perpetuated the cycle that you easily could have walked away from and not been involved in, but you decided to play their game, and now they're going to play the game harder against you. So, and to me, like, that is the epitome of just being a useful idiot. Like, you're so convinced that that's the thing you have to do. And like him or hate him, Lenin was over the target about this type of situation, about useful idiots. Like, you just keep falling for the same stupid thing, justifying it, saying that your side's better somehow. So
yeah, I like to be optimistic. I suppose maybe I'm too optimistic.
yeah,
And I
no,
think
optimism's good.
we tend to
Yeah,
we as libertarians, we tend to look at the people who are deep into Team A
yeah,
and Team B, or Team Red and Team Blue, and
yeah,
we
yeah,
tend to say, well, we're above that because we're never really in it. I mean, we
yeah,
don't have that sort of
yeah.
affinity for. I really hate the New York Yankees or whatever. I mean, I just don't like those
Right.
pinstripes. Whatever it
Yeah,
is. Or I hate the Patriots or whatever. Whoever the
yeah,
bad guy is at the moment.
yeah,
I mean, and we're sort of above it. We're just these Tylenol Americans,
Yeah.
the
Right.
autistic libertarians, and
Nah,
we
I
don't
see what you
we
did there too.
yeah, I mean, we're sort of above it. We don't have that emotional stake in it. But
Yeah.
I think eventually people are going to realize that there's politics and then there's real life,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
and they're just going to let it go. And I think those kind of comments, like
Yeah.
everybody in office politics, that those kind of comments always people always try to blow it out of context, and
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
the saner heads tend to basically say, no, I'm just going to do what I was going to do anyway, and I'm not
Yeah.
going to worry about the dumb comment.
Yeah.
um yeah, I think that's where we're headed.
Yeah. And I don't, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I do want to reiterate I do think that there is an optimistic direction. I'm a very hopeful guy. I consider myself to be a hopeful realist. I can identify some of the more realistic aspects, but I still have hope, and I do see optimistic or optimistic points, and I don't think that, especially more and more like that I get involved like with the ALC, and it's like we're both kind of involved in that, right? And it's like, to me, a lot of the hope and optimism that I have really does come from like seeing all the people there that's a part of the ALC, and like, and just hearing of like where it started, where it's going, how it's grown, even just for the short amount of time that I've been involved. And it's like, no, like there are really good people, and there's people that, they do have different points of view. And I think when you step away from the computer, when you step away from the TV, when you go outside, you open your door, you open your shades and allow the sun to come in, and you take the time to actually talk to people. And I mentioned this, I think it was to my dad not long ago, but it's like, it's like if people just took the opportunity to talk to people, and not just look at everybody as like an R or a D or whatever the case is, because I mean, really, like, we there is a sense of brainwashing to where like that's the default that most people go to. But if you just talk to people, there's a lot of people I've talked to that I know for a fact, like we have varying differences. There's some genuinely really good people out there. And I
Yeah,
think that they don't want like the worst for somebody else. I'm not convinced that the overwhelming like general populace is filled with all of these just monsters all the time. I do think that that is a perception that's been created by government to justify their means to an end, and I think that media plays a huge part of that. And when you look at how the saturation of the media landscape has been, and all you see is bad, 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 negative, negative, negative all the time. It's just terrible stories, killing, murder, death, just crime all the time. It's like, yeah, you're going to come away every single day of your life. If that's all you watch and that's all you subject yourself to, one, it's almost kind of a form of self-brainwashing, but that's what you're going to believe it is. And then when you go out into society, you lack the fundamental ability to actually even talk to people. And that in and of itself, I think, is one of the greatest accomplishments that this authoritarian state really has achieved, is this idea to make you afraid of talking to people, make you off put by just seeing somebody else, because you're like, well, I don't think they feel the same way as me. And I would argue, like, no, like, go out there, talk to people, even if they're people that don't agree with you. Like, get to know some people, make friends. You don't have to agree on everything. And so a lot of people say that, but then they don't live that. And it's like, no, like, there are good people. And if you take the time to get to know these people, you will find you will probably have more in common with these people than you really think that you do. And I would guarantee you that there's a really good chance that you could all do really good things. But you have to like divorce yourself from this perpetual realm of just diarrhea that comes from the general media, and even some of your own favorite sources. Like, just divest. Like, I don't know about you, Tom, but I love anti-war news. I can't sit and read every article every single day, because there's a lot of like sad things that they talk
Yeah.
about, and it needs to be talked about. But like,
Mm.
we have to disengage ourselves to kind of ground ourselves again. And I do think that, and I'll yield it here, but for me personally, I think that's where, like, our faith comes into play. I go to church on Sundays. I renew myself every Sunday. I have my daily, my daily vocations, and I have my daily prayers every morning before I get up, and every night before I go to bed. Like, and just going through these steps of gratitude, right? And I think that having something that grounds you is fundamental now more than ever. And for me, that is my faith. And being Catholic, and I know that some people don't like that. That's fine. That's your prerogative. But that's where I'm at. And I believe that is the thing that fundamentally grounds me. And and we need whatever that is for somebody. You've got to find it, and like, not just fall into this perpetual trap of hatred and disgust and like whatever it is. And so I'll leave it there. But I had to point that out. So
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a tendency in a lot of people with the politics to like, whether it's Republican or Democrat, but even within libertarian circles, is
yeah.
sort of oh wait, they're not right on one issue. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm old enough to know that, like, if I find out enough about anyone, I'm
Yeah.
going to disagree with them about something.
Oh, for sure.
So I just try to focus on the positive. And that's,
Yeah.
you mentioned the American Liberty Caucus of the Libertarian Party. That's one thing I like about it, that
Yeah.
there's no purity test. There's no, like, the old libertarian saying of, you're not a real libertarian, I'm the only
Yeah.
one, because I'll find some issue where we
Yeah.
disagree. There's not that. You can present an issue in that group, and people can agree and disagree, and
Yeah.
then you can still be friends at the end of the day, and that's
Yeah.
fine. And you don't, just because you disagree doesn't mean that you're a bad person.
Oh, 100%.
That's,
Yeah.
that's important, and I think that needs to get beyond just the American Liberty Caucus. It needs to
Yeah.
get out
Yeah.
into society as a whole. And I think you're right. Faith plays a part of that, because we have to wish the best for everyone. So we can't think of them as the enemy. I have a friend who's bickering with his wife in front of me. I'm like, you can't treat your wife like the enemy.
Yeah.
You just, you can't do that. You just,
Right.
you have to serve that person and love that person.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do. You have to want the best for that person,
Yeah.
not to remind them of how they failed you,
Yeah.
20 minutes ago or 20 years ago. It doesn't matter.
Right.
That's, none of that matters. And it's the same in a marriage. It's the same in a friendship. It's the same in politics. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And just to kind of just add a little bit more spice to that, there's a lot of people that look at things in a contrast of good versus evil. And one of the things that I would posit to them is, if you really do want good to win, don't fall into this trap. Again, it's not just like the human aspect, right? But it's like, don't fall into this trap of being perpetually convinced of hating somebody all the time, or disliking somebody all the time. Like that in and of itself is a propagator of evil, and that is the desired outcome. So when you look at, like, okay, I don't like evil and I don't want evil to win. Okay, well, then you need to start to kind of tune yourself to being a better propagate or steward of good. And for me, that means I have to ground myself, and as well as many others. But like, I feel that grounding myself more into my faith is integral to my ability to be able to do better and do more good in this world. And then by way of that, then I can go into things like the caucus and hopefully have more of a positive effect there. Because the more positive that you do, and I'm a firm believer in this, the more positive that you do, and the more that you tend to align yourself with good morals, with good values, with good principles, and again, faith, you will start to see that outcome manifest itself before you. But if you're constantly stuck in this cycle of hatred, of, I don't like these people, these people shouldn't exist, whatever the case is, like, that is all you're going to see. And you will be so consumed by that as an outcome that you yourself are aiding and abetting, in my opinion, the realm of evil. And I don't think that, even if you don't see it that way, like evil has an insidious way of being present in your life without you realizing that you are doing something to further that. And so I think that requires introspection. Again, for me, it's faith and being honest with myself and faith. But at the same time, like, people have to figure out where that is for them and being able to identify that, so that way you can go and do good, and you can go and you can spread, goodness and build relationships and build bridges, because without it, like, it does become an insurmountable mountain that we have to try and climb. And I don't think it has to be that difficult in the end of the day. We can make it easier in some ways for us. So that's my little positive, hopeful tidbit that I wanted to put out there. I'll give you the last word and then we'll wrap it up here, Tom.
Okay, well, I'd feel like a hypocrite if I didn't mention the fact that one of my most recent blog posts was titled "One Cheer for Hate," and it was this is on my personal blog. What is it? blogspot.com/Tedlem or Tedlem.blogspot.com. But the idea of it was that hate is actually one of those words that has taken on a lot more severity over the centuries. It was actually a mild term. It meant basically not without the emotional attachment,
right?
And there are a small number. The point of the piece was not you should have more acrimony with people, but there is a very tiny proportion. I'm saying less than 1% of people that you probably should separate from. The common culture calls it toxic people, but it's a very tiny proportion that you just can't help. The best thing you can do for them is get out of their lives. But let me reaffirm everything that you said. I agree, but I just don't want to come off as a hypocrite and saying, "Oh, everybody's great." I'm not really quite there. Okay, but I'm almost there, because it's substantially more than 99% of people that you should engage with positively. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for having me, Jeremy, and I appreciate it. My last comment is, make sure you keep reading me at the Libertarian Institute. Check out my podcast, Blue Collar Breakdown, over on YouTube. It's on Facebook, it's on Rumble, and it's on Spotify. I do it every Wednesday night.
Right on. Yeah, go check him out. He's got really good stuff. Highly recommend. And Tom, as always, you are my favorite, and perhaps I am very biased economist, and it's always a pleasure. If you don't mind, stick around for a couple minutes here. I'm going to hit the intro. I'm going to run, and then I'll be back to chat with you here shortly. But I just want to leave one more. I know I'm kind of sandwiching this, but I just want to go over my favorite verse, because I think it's very timely. It's 2 Corinthians 3:17, which is, "Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty." I firmly believe that. And I really do feel that liberty is one of those things that truly and genuinely, it doesn't ever go away. Okay, there's always going to be that little spark, that little kindle in your heart that always is going to be there. It's always going to be pervasive. It just takes a little work to kind of restart or reignite that fire. But once it's there, then you just got to take it and run with it and see what manifests from that. So in the end of the day, take that fire of liberty with you, rekindle that spirit if for whatever reason it's become a little hopeless for you, and be the hope, be the change, be the difference that you want to see, because it really does start with you. It starts with everybody, and we've got to do our part. So with that being said, thank you everybody for coming to the Sentinels of Liberty podcast. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you guys next Thursday. Still not sure what I'm going to do next Thursday, but we'll figure it out. I will try and do the best I can. Have a great evening. And on that note, we are going to hit the outro. So have a great weekend. Steel-clad fist, rise in the dark. Shattered chains, ignite.